Hello and greetings from Iceland, and welcome to this third episode where I go over some facts about traditional Icelandic food. In the first two episodes, I showed you traditional sheepheads and pissfish, and some of my viewers were not impressed at all, and me neither. And we have to keep in mind that it was us Icelanders that suffered the most when our parents and grandparents made us eat some of this old stuff. So today I decided to show all of us some mercy and offer you something easier to digest, or food that even tourists should be able to taste, and many of you might even know some of this food from your own food culture. So I will be talking about smoked food today. In the old days, Icelanders used to smoke whatever they could catch. They would smoke seal, whale, beef, horse, and a variety of bird species, and of course lamb. And I'm starting with the lamb because we Icelanders love it so much that when it comes to lamb meat consumption per capita, we rank number 3, and it's only the people in Turkmenistan and Mongolia that eat more lamb than us. But I'm really not sure how it looks for us. But anyways, the strongest sales product when it comes to old food is a smoked leg of lamb, and there is no Christmas without them, or hangikjöt as we call it, or hanging meat. It's on December 23rd that we boil it, and then we serve it cold 2 days later on Christmas Day. And since we are into Christmas, I'm going to tell you a little about how we eat our smoked lamb. We serve it with traditional Christmas bread, which we can describe as poor people's pizza. And the sauce that goes with the meat, it's not that rich either. We call it uppstúfur, and it's more or less made out of wheat, milk, sugar, salt, butter, and potatoes. This still remains as festive food today, done the same way as through the centuries. But we have the luxury now to use condensed green peas and red cabbage on the side. And there we have a dish that is as Icelandic as a dish can be. Most of the smoked lamb comes from the bigger meat factories today, but many farmers hang on to old traditions or to have a smoke shed by the farmhouse, and every farmer has his own method from family traditions. But usually they brine up the meat for like 2 weeks, but dry salting is also a known method. But the factories today, they often inject the brine into the meat. And then around 10 days later, the lamb legs are left to hang from the rafters of the smoke shed. And that's where the name comes from, or hanging meat, hangikjöt. And in the smoke shed, there will be constant fire, small one, for like 2-3 weeks. They have to keep the heat down because they don't want to cook the meat. But then we come to the biggest secret, or the smoke. And when it comes to Iceland, we are not as advanced as many other nations that had forests. We could not pick from hickory or cherrywood or whatever tree gives the best taste. And that's simply because there were no trees in Iceland by then when this method was developed. So we had to stick to nature. And let's take a look at what we used to make the smoke. And some might say, oh shit, but dry sheep shit is this very natural spice that gives our hangikjöt so fantastic taste. And when we ask farmers about their methods, they often say that in order to get the meat perfect, it's all about to blend well-dried quality shit with some grass. That's the trick. And that has worked well for us Icelanders for the most time. But advertising agencies promoting Icelandic food to tourists, it was a kind of shitty deal for them to go on with this concept. And in many cases it was a turn-off for tourists. So growing forestry in Iceland in the last decades led us to use birch, which is the only tree that we have plenty of actually. And that is a rather common factory process today to use birch. But dedicated home smokers, they only want good shit. And smoked lamb is not just this hugely popular Christmas food. You can find it sliced down in every store, used as a topping on bread. And one of the most popular salad on the market includes mayonnaise, eggs, smoked lamb, and condensed green peas and carrots. And this salad is so strong on the Icelandic market that one of the strongest quick bite you can get in a supermarket is a sandwich that includes this salad. So it's the top of the line. There are even some who prefer to eat the smoked meat just as a snack. Buy it sliced down, skip the bread, and eat it like any snack or popcorn. It's just one of the foods after the first bite you can't stop. And during Christmas we have this snack form of this smoked meat, where the cheapest cuts of the lamb are glued together, smoked. It's not healthy, but tastes great and gives you the farts. And as we move down the smoky road, we find products like mildly smoked lamb, mainly a festive dish. So we Icelanders just love smoked lamb in any form, and we even smoke old sheeps. But as I mentioned, we smoked other species as well. But as for the beef, we rarely smoke it anymore, mostly the tongue. But when it comes to smoked pork, we are under Danish influences in that department. Like we see with the glazed smoked loin, caramelized potatoes. But that is what 50% of Icelanders eat during Christmas Eve. But the hangikjöt is for Christmas Day. And more about the pork, it's also possible to buy smoked pork chops during summer for the barbecue. Quite popular actually. And that's a new thing. We do also smoke horse meat, but horse meat consumption is on the rise. But that's where I draw the line. I can't eat that in any form. And when it comes to birds, we smoke the puffin, but it's not available in large quantities and often ends up in expensive restaurants. And when we move into the fish, I'm first mentioning mildly smoked haddock. That is something that we could find in every store like 2-3 decades ago. But it's getting hard now and expensive when we find it. So that tradition is receding. But the tradition to smoke trout and salmon, it lives on. And more than that, it is one of the most popular topping on bread. And the salad with smoked salmon is hugely popular. And again, one of the strongest sandwich type on the market contains salmon salad. And just like with the meat, there are many farmers who smoke trout at home, often from the local lakes, and sell it through retail stores or markets. So we Icelanders have managed to take centuries-old tradition, maintain the workmanship, and even develop it further for new generations of customers. And that is what Icelanders do best in meat processing, or to smoke. But this last leg of this journey takes us where we could do better. And one might ask, don't you have a wonderful sausage culture, especially since they are often smoked, like the famous Icelandic Haddock? That is actually just fine. But the sausages, they are just another category. And to make it simple, here in Iceland we have this one type of smoked sausage. It has dominated the market for years because many of us don't know anything else. And here we have an Icelandic housewife that didn't know how to cook anything else than bjúgu, the only smoked sausage on the Icelandic market. That can't end well.
Hvað matinn?
Það bjúgu?
Bjúgu?
Já.
So there are still many traces of our centuries of isolation to be found in our supermarkets. And as for myself, I was in Lithuania for the first time 10 years ago in this big supermarket in Kaunas, finding myself standing in front of a long wall with hundreds of types of sausages. And I was like a kid in a candy store, coming from this isolated island where you could only get this one type of candy that really sucked. And as I stood there, I was about to have a food cultural breakdown. And it came to my mind that Lithuania was a communist state only a few years earlier. And it was the Icelandic foreign minister who was the first to recognize them as a sovereign state. And you can see all about that in the history books. But thinking about rescue from communism, maybe it was us Icelanders that needed to be rescued too, from our old-fashioned meat processing companies. because when it comes to product development, we Icelanders have been stuck in some far-out communist mode for the last century. One shitty sausage fits all. And despite the fact that Iceland has a large number of immigrants from Poland and Lithuania, they can't import just anything from their countries. And it is very easy to recognize them in the supermarkets, as they tend to break down and cry in front of the sausage selection. And I must say, it's just awful to watch it. I feel so sorry for them. I have been in both Poland and Lithuania, and I've seen the selection there, and I understand these people. My heart goes out for them. And I really hope that this explains a lot for you who visit us as tourists. Just stay away from this so-called selection in our supermarkets to keep up the good spirit in the travel. If you can find more than one type of pepperoni in a supermarket, that is what we call a lucky day to remember. It's that bad. So, there is a dark sausage side to the Icelandic meat industry, and of such a scale that I decided to skip that story for the most part in this video, but make another one where I cover the rules, regulations, and politics that kept this industry away from serious product development and left it to stagnate somewhere during the mid-19th century. However, the good news is that we have extremely good meat and fish, and our restaurants have rescued what could be rescued of our reputation, and they do a good job. So I'm ending this by saying, we are good at the old methods, but beyond that we are in desperate need to escape the Icelandic communist sausage and enter the modern times with our fine meat and excellent smoking traditions. And with that, I'm sending you best regards from Iceland.